Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the premiere episode of The People's House, a discussion forum on issues and matters that are on the hearts of Barbadians. My name is Stacia Brown, and I'm your host for this evening's session, and I welcome our guests this evening. We have Dr. Ronnie Yearwood, the president of the Democratic Labour Party, and he is joined by Mr. Walter Maloney, the second vice president of the party, and our leading lady, Miss Felicia Dujon, the third vice president of the party. Welcome to everyone joining us on Facebook and YouTube, and let's get started. Now, we know there are challenges across Barbados in a cross-section of sectors, and these are issues affecting Barbadians across all walks of life. So today we had the central bank giving the review of the economy for 2023, and we'll lead off with you, Dr. Yearwood. Do you want to give us your thoughts or synopsis on the review?
Thank you very much, Stacia, and I want to thank our viewers in Barbados and those in the diaspora who are joining us for this first show. I just, even before I get to the central bank report, I want to say, thank you for the support team that we have here that you don't even see, that's doing a lot of this hard work to ensure that we can do this, and to say that we are doing this because it is important that we not only communicate with the people of Barbados who are at home in Barbados and who are abroad, but that we provide a space in our democracy where our democracy seems under threat. This kind of platform and this engagement with you, Barbadians, on issues that matter to you. There's a reason it's called People's House, because what we're building here belongs to you. We are servants, we are here to do our job, we're here to bring these issues to the fore. We're here to prosecute the government. We're here to ensure that you get relief on the things that are important and matter to you. So I want to say my own personal welcome to the People's House. Now, the governor of the central bank gave his report today, and we can start with some positives. We all welcome the projections of 4% growth, but the reality is that is just a number. Most Barbadians, as we know, are struggling, can't pay bills, having issues to do with mortgage, can't provide for healthcare bills given the state of the QEH, and most people are now opting to try to go private, but they can't pay for that. The state of our school system, we're seeing more people even opting to go private schools, the state of roads, the state of everything. The reality is people's dollars are stretched. You earn $1, but the reality is what you're getting in your hand is probably what, 10 cents or 25 cents on the dollar. So saying the economy is growing by 4%, yes, fine. We welcome that. Good projections, really good going. But the reality, the questions that we're left with, is that reaching down to the ordinary man and woman in Barbados? Does that affect their grocery bill when they're going to Trimart, or when they go into Popular or Macy's or wherever they decide to shop in Barbados? Because the reality you're faced with, it doesn't matter where you shop. Everywhere seems to be expensive in this country. Cost of living is through the roof, and that 4% growth is not rebounding to the people of this country. What I found interesting about the governor's report is that the governor seems to have got off his mantra about inflation being imported, and now he's shuffled the blame onto other things about why we have inflation. The reality is the governor's statistics and the governor's approach is questionable, and there's nothing wrong with saying that. We can observe the 4%, but we have to also question how he's arriving at these numbers. And there seems to be some fudging, because the reality is we are at this moment having some of the largest and the highest debt in terms of foreign debt. But the governor is trying to play that down in terms of moving the goalposts. The reality is this government has borrowed more foreign debt than any government of recent history in Barbados, and that debt rate has gone up faster than any other government. So let me give you some numbers here. Our debt is about $4.6 billion last we checked, and our foreign debt was about over $5 billion. So we moved from foreign debt around 3 to over $5 billion between 2018 and 2023, while we had some reduction on the domestic side. The reality is the Barbados economy is not doing well. We have to contend with our tourism numbers not being back up to 2019, 2020 numbers. So when we compare our tourism numbers to say the St. Lucias and the Jamaicas and the Grenadiers of this world, we are still not even near those levels, even though that we're performing slightly better than we were probably last year. So this 4% has to be put in context. And I think that is something that the governor needs to come clean with, the people of Barbados, and understand that you are now the governor of the central bank. You are no longer an advisor to the government. And you know, we talked about this originally when he was governor. People threw up their hands. Oh, y'all just blah, 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 blah. We got all that. That's all we heard. And our point was simple. The architect of your economic program cannot be the manager of the economic program, because when you switch roles, you're going to try to do everything to make the decisions that you made when you were the advisor look good. And that is the problem when we drill down on these numbers and drill down on the kind of picture that the government is trying to paint that we can see. So yes, we welcome the 4% projections, but we know that 4% is not hitting the ordinary man and woman in the street who are struggling daily. We get the messages here, we get the WhatsApps, people can't feed their children. I don't, you know, let me put this in terms that people can understand. I don't know if some of these people sitting in these positions have ever had a phone call or a message from a mother who cannot feed her kids. I don't know if you've ever had to take one of those calls to understand when you come out and say these things in abstract and use numbers, GDP and GMP and this PPP, that, you know, when you get that call from a mother literally crying or the WhatsApp and you can feel and hear the tears through it, I cannot feed my child, you know, telling them that the economy grew by 4%. How does that really do anything to them? And it's us here on the ground trying our darndest to respond to these issues, and it hurts you. It hurts you because we can't do everything, we can't fix it. We're trying, and I just want people to understand what people are facing up there. When you get that call from somebody who's about to be made homeless because they can't work for whatever disability they may have or illness, and they don't, welfare is giving you $350 or $400 a month. That's not enough to pay for the house. They can't get a house. These are real situations. So you telling me the economy is 4%? Fine, that's good for you. But how is that 4% really impacting on the lives of people and the lived experiences that Barbadians are going through every single day in this country? And these are the kind of calls that we get. We get them. We get to hear these things. We get to live these stories, and it's not easy. It is not easy, especially when you don't have all the resources to help every single mother, every single father, every single household that you want to help. So, you know, as I said, the good on the governor, good on him for his 4%. But I can tell you that Marcia, who call me or whoever else calls me, I can use anonymous names. They're not feeling this. They are not feeling this 4%.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Yearwood. So now we have that picture painted, and we know the numbers aren't actually telling the real life lived story of Barbadians on a day-to-day basis. Let's dive down into some real other issues that have been hitting Barbadians across this country. And so we could turn to the QEH hospital. Now, we know that the QEH hospital has had multiple challenges, whether it be staffing, nursing, doctors, whether it be equipment, issues, whether it be long wait times of patients and the treatment of patients within the hospital, availability of appointments and being able to hold the appointments. There's a cross section of issues that are touching the lives of Barbadians when it comes to our premier health institution. Let's hear you, Dr. Yearwood. I know over the last weekend, we had a part of the press telling us about the certain equipment within the hospital that is extremely important to cancer treatment not working or out of commission. What are your thoughts on that? And how do you see this affecting the lives of Barbadians, literally their lives?
Sometimes I actually don't have words for these situations because I don't imagine how you could be a minister of health, or you could be the assistant minister of health who has failed in producing ID cards and is now somehow responsible for the health care of the people of this country who work hard every single day, who get up at 5 o'clock, have to get 2 buses if you're coming from St. Lucie or St. Andrew. These are real things. If you miss the last bus, I know people, these are make-up stories, who sleep in the restaurant because if you live in St. Andrew or St. Thomas in certain parts and you miss the 11 o'clock bus, there's no point trying to even get home. You will have to sleep wherever you are and then get home in the morning, maybe to come back for the evening shift. And you get ill, God forbid you get ill, you've paid your taxes, you're paying NIS, they're taking it out, you're doing everything that they tell you to do in school. They tell you to be a good citizen, your mother raised you right, you're trying your best, you got your family, you got your little boy, you want to go on birthday dinner, you want to buy a cake. These are normal things. These things should not be hard in the country. And then you get sick. You come down with something for whatever reason. Everybody has a moment. Everybody will get ill. We're not invincible. We're not superhumans. And you have to go to the QH. And these are real stories. You are in accident and emergency for 5 days or more before you get put on a bed. In what scenario is that real? And then on top of that, you have basic equipment. The mammogram machine, we understand, we talked about this last year. It wasn't working. I remember Felicia, we talked about this. We have even been trying as a party to think, maybe how can we raise some funds to buy one? Of all the things that this party is facing with our own issues of funding, we have been, trust us, we've been sitting down, racking our brains. Maybe we just need to find a way to raise some money and try to get a machine, because at this stage, women's lives are at risk, because you are going to spend millions of dollars on other things. For example, trying to refurbish Kensington, 50 million, and you can't buy a mammogram machine. In what universe are you living? What kind? Let me get basic here. What kind of person makes that a decision? What are your priorities? Are your priorities not the people of this country? Are your priorities glamour projects so that you can look about the place and you look good, or welcoming this prime minister or that president to Barbados because you want some glamour moment? And now you have a situation where patients have said, you have the investigative work from the Nation newspaper. I give them props for that. Sometimes they don't always get it right, but when they do get it right, they just get it right. You just gotta get Jacket and Jill. You got to do it, and and I give them their props for that bit of investigative journalism. So you had corroborated, factual, truthful reports from patients telling you the machine is not working. Some patients are making it known that they have to go to Jamaica or Trinidad to the tunes of tens and thousands of dollars to get cancer treatment. And then you had the chairman of the QH board and others around that facility coming out to tell us foolishness about how the machine offline. What does offline mean? Offline mean it ain't working? What does one hit mean? And they're denying the reports from people who are hurting. Why? Think about this. Somebody suffering from cancer, somebody struggling through, speaking their truth to power, and you have the audacity to deny their truth. And the headline said, QH denies that machine is not working. We all saw the response. And you're telling me that you're a caring government? Like, what kind of human being, what kind of minister, what kind of a structure of a political party could do that to people who are vulnerable, who are suffering, who are hurting, who are not receiving the care that they deserve and that they're used to, when we are raking in over, if I remember, over $50 million for the health levy. And apparently it was outperforming $60 million for a health levy. We were promised that that model of financing the QH would make it sustainable because, the money in mixing up with government money in the consolidated fund where it gets lost in ethers, that you will get the money, it will make, why is it not working? Why is the model not working? You're not explaining this to us. Where is the money going? How you spent really $60 million that you're taking directly in that health levy from Barbadians? Where has it gone? Where is it going? How is the QH reached this state of disrepair, this state where people are not getting the treatment that they deserve and that they need? And these things could cause loss of life. Let us be realistic. You spend 5 days before you get on a bed in a corridor in somewhere in A&E. How is that conducive to your good healthcare? How does that speak to a nation? And maybe this is, let me get a little bit legalistic. How does that even speak to your basic human rights and your human dignity? I mean, just if that was my mother or my grandmother, Lord, but nobody can't want me for. Let me tell you, when I go up there, so when I see people get into these, you have to understand, because it's nice to sit down on the outside and go, well, that boy might get home bad. Let it be your mother or your grandmother up there in that corridor and tell me, how would you respond? Let it be any of the same ministers. How would they respond? They're probably traveling overseas for treatment because they could afford it at the $20,000 per month salaries that they're getting the city ministers and all the other parts. But the ordinary people of this country can't get on the plane and get away from the treatment. They have to go to the QEH, and it should be functioning. The question is, where are the priorities? Why you can't buy a mammogram machine? Why you can't buy the radiation the linear machine? How is it hard to do these things to set the right priorities? Because sometimes we often talk about governments and monies, but it's about what the government's spending the money on. You will go and buy a fleet of cars. Brian probably realized this, but the government just buy a whole new fleet of cars. The Prime Minister driving about and gonna be driving a new Mercedes M50, a new Mercedes Benz, talking about they going climate change. You need new cars now. Drive the ones that you got. Other people here surviving, please drive them to them falling to the same potholes that you don't fix. How? So your priority is you spending millions on these ministerial cars, and don't get us and let us understand. We would know that a prime minister's vehicle has to be specially outfitted, so it can cost more because security reasons, and they don't have to tell us. But let's be realistic. The prime minister can be driving an ordinary Mercedes that anybody else has got security features. That's more money on those things. So you to spend that kind of money on yourself for a pretty new ride, when that money, when you think about, when you gotta look at the books, like anybody's got to balance their household. You're gonna buy this or you're gonna buy that. Well, do we need a new car right now? The answer is no. Could the current one last? Yes. Actually, no. We can go and spend the money on the machines at the QH. And that is how you run a government that cares. Choose the things that matter. That's why I love what you began with, Stacey. We're examining the things that matter. The things that matter. They just don't care about whether you driving an electric vehicle or nothing. Drive what you got till it can't drive no more. That is the thing. I'm spending money on the people of this country.
Okay. Thanks, Dr. Herwood. So now I'll turn to you, Walter, because I know you want to interject here, because I know you've spoken about the QEH more than once. So do you want to share what your thoughts are on this.
Well, of course. Thank you, Cecilia, and good night to all the brothers and sisters out there who are watching. First thing, I'm dressed in these colors because I'm giving solidarity to those persons out there who are suffering from cancer. And this is something that I listened to the president of this really upsets me. And I know it upsets a lot of people in this country. You know, when I read the story that's in the press, I asked myself, when you say that you're looking to get some money in the next financial year to do A, B, and C, the question I asked myself, so if I'm diagnosed with cancer, and you tell me, well, we're hoping to get a piece of equipment maybe by April, what do? I go somewhere in my bedroom and say, Mr. Cancer, could you hold off until April because government is going to get a machine to see if I can help you? And that is foolishness. And you know, when I look and see that the Queen Elizabeth Hospital was set up in the 40th of November 1964, and it was to address the medical and surgical, clinical, and treatment needs of the Caribbean. This is a facility that all across the OAS, I have family who came from Grenada, my wife had family who came from Dominica, that used the facility at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. We prided ourselves on giving excellent medical care. What has happened now is that we have a hospital, and if you have any person that works in that hospital, they will tell you, do not come in here. If you can avoid in here, do not come. And that is a fact. And this isn't anything that the Democratic Labour Party is saying, but that is a fact. Can you imagine? I mean, I'm going to get a little personal now. I visited a friend of mine on Sunday last week. We went to the hospital on Monday. And as I'm speaking to you now, brothers and sisters, my friend is still in the A&E. 1 week and 2 days later, he has not been given a bed, and he is in great pain. He has not been given a bed. When the deputy chairman comes out and says that the machine is
Offline.
It's offline, I got a text from another friend of mine who says, Walter, I know you ain't here for a little while, right? But I just wanted to know. I'm in Trinidad before Christmas, getting treatment, radiotherapy treatment in Trinidad. This is before Christmas. These are people who can go because he has an insurance and he can afford it. But I also want you to know that less than 50% of people in Barbados have health insurance. Less than 50. There are many people that they can't go and to the hospital and say, I'm going to go overseas into Miami and get treatment. They cannot afford it. So basically, what we're saying to people, hold on and die. That's what we're saying. We cannot treat you, so you will die. And that is, I have never in all my life seen the health system in this country at this level. It is saddening, it is frightening. People are scared to go into the hospital. And this is something that we need to address. And we need to address it in a hurry, because what the president said is true. Where do our priorities lie? We take money and buy cars. We take money and fix that Kensington Oval. We take money and do all sorts of strange things, bring in all sorts of consultants, and the thing now is $15,000 and $20,000 a month. But the health of the nation, if it is one thing that this country always prides itself on, whenever there is an estimate debate in the House, health always gets the majority of the money. Every government in this country, every government, whether it's BRT, always made certain that all health sector is always satisfied with the resources that it needs. Right now in the hospital, there's a lack of resources. It's not only the equipment, is a lack of resources.
Mhm.
You have people are leaving the hospital. Nurses, doctors, technicians are leaving because they cannot work under the stress anymore. They are leaving. And then sometimes we have to be careful because we tend to point fingers at those persons who work in the hospital. And this party will always have some measure of understanding as to what they're going through. Because when you're working in an institution, there are no resources, you're trying your best. And not only that, you know, some of the same people in there are going to be affected because they have family coming in there, and they themselves can't even help them. That is what is happening in Barbados. And nary a word from the current substantive Minister of Health. Not one word from the Prime Minister of this country, who think it is more sexy to speak on climate change issues than to speak on issues affect the man and woman of this country, and that is our health system. And when we speak about health, and I know it may be going on a little bit more, but when we speak about health, it's not only Queen Elizabeth Hospital. It is not only Queen Elizabeth Hospital. We have issues in the polyclinics. There are issues in the outlying other hospitals, the St. Philip Hospital, the St. Lucie Hospital. There are issues down there as well. Equipment. You don't have the equipment. You don't have the material. You can't get certain medicines. Those are things. Those are realities that we have to face, and yet we are not hearing anything constructive as to how we want to fix our health system. And that is why tonight I'm in pink. I'm in pink because this party will continue to stand in solidarity with brothers and sisters who are out there suffering because of an incompetent government whose priorities lie someplace else and not in the interest of the masses of this country.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Walter. So let me just bring this all home in terms of health and specifically the QEH. This is, first of all, I'll say this is the People's House, a discussion forum for matters that Barbadians care about. And tonight we have the president of the Democratic Labour Party being joined by his second vice president, Mr. Walter Maloney, and his third vice president, Ms. Felicia Dujon. And health continues to be a major part of Barbadians' lives. No matter if you live in Licorice Village, or if you live in Haynesville, or if you live in Bottom Bay, it touches the lives of Barbadians, whether you are a child, whether you are an elderly person, whether you are somebody who is still in the prime of your life, or one of the, what that generation you like to call the Generation Z. So it touches the lives of Barbadians, and it's not something that should be pushed aside because it's not sexy, as Walter said. It is not something that should be ignored or looked down on. It's something that should be prioritized because Barbadians deserve that their health care can actually work on their behalf. Now, let me bring in Ms. Dujon. I like to say Dujon because I love to say the name. I know you had your own contribution to add on that issue. Is given what both Dr. Yearwood has said and what Mr. Maloney said, do you have any other thoughts or concerns that haven't been raised as yet?
I think it's good evening, everyone, and thank you for having us. And I think it's important that all Barbadians understand that the Barbados Labour Party was primarily interested in winning an election. That was the main concern. Once they won the election, they primarily forgot about the people and the mission that they claimed to have had when they were doing the campaigning. The reality is that people are now seeing exactly what the campaigning was about. It wasn't about caring for people. It wasn't about ensuring that there's an element of transparency. It wasn't about an element of accountability. And we're seeing it in all sectors of governance, whether it's health, whether it's education, whether it's transport. And the reality is that this is what Barbadians and the average Barbadians have to deal with. an uncaring, incompetent government.
Mhm.
And the reality is that we have to know that we deserve not only better, but our children deserve better. The generation behind us deserve better. We cannot have a society where people are afraid to go to the hospital.
Mm.
You're a human being. And at some point, something may happen. And people cannot feel in any way that you pay taxes, considering that every year or every other month, some taxes goes up
Mhm.
or some new taxes is added. And at the end of the day, you as a citizen cannot get the services that you're paying your taxes for. So right now, what the president and my colleague here have said,
Mhm.
every Barbadian can relate to it.
Yep.
And not
Yes.
only Barbadians in Barbados itself, in the diaspora.
Or
People understand what it's like to be in a situation where there's no help. When you're sick, the most immediate thing that you do is go to a doctor,
Mhm.
go to the hospital. And if you cannot do that as a human being, you are placed in an element of vulnerability.
ability.
And this is what this Labour Party has been doing, placing citizens in positions of vulnerability so that they can enact whatever laws or whatever kinds of positions that they want to enact. And this is what we need to stop. We need to stand with Barbadians and let them know that you have the support from the Democratic Labour Party. We're not going to allow them to bulldoze you because they believe that they have the power, so they will dictate when they're going to buy that machine. They will dictate how much persons or how much staff they will get. They will dictate that because they believe that you're vulnerable and you will take whatever that comes. Because, of course, they have 30 seats. So they do as they please. So the reality is that we cannot continue in that vein. This is 2024, and I think Barbadians need to stand up. We can no longer tolerate that kind of, I would say, kind of behavior, insensitive behavior, inhumane kind of treatment. How can you treat your citizens that way? How can you do that? How can you look at your Barbadian citizens that voted for you and treat them with such callous attitudes towards them as if they should not speak? So the hospital where people have been campaigning and advocating and championing, it's not only the Democratic Labour Party. We have also heard the Cancer Society speak on that matter. And what has happened since then? Treating citizens as if they are not valuable enough. Why? Why else do we get to treat our citizens that way? So when we think about health care, it is not the only institution. When we think about education, when you think about the roads, transport, we're seeing government that does not value the interests of citizens. And once that begins, and it's been happening for a while, I think we've been too patient with them, hoping that God will touch their heart. But I think God has given up on them too. Because at this stage, the cries of the people are being ignored. People have been asking for help. We've been seeing it on social media about the hospital services. We've been seeing it in the media. So what else? What do you expect people to do at this stage? People are supposed to remain silent and die in pain. What kind of government is that? What kind of government would treat citizens? And then you want to call us brothers and sisters? You don't treat brothers and sisters that way. You don't treat family that way. When it comes to health, I think people, there's a saying my grandmother used to say that when it comes to health, when it comes to illness, we judge no one because it doesn't judge illness and sickness. It does not discriminate. And we have people in cabinet that had experienced cancer before. So they should know better. They should know better to know exactly how someone who's going through those various treatment and those experiences and what they should do. You're supposed to be supporting your citizens, supporting them, especially women, And so when we speak about those issues, it becomes personal because we're all human beings. And so the president asked the question, what kind of person does that? It's the characters Because they could have all the millions and billions that they borrow, but the character is what defines what judgment
Actions
that
they
they
do.
will be taken. So those characters will decide, okay, we'll buy the pretty cars. We'll put monuments all over the place. Yet you have people waiting weeks at a hospital. It speaks deeply about your character. And I think this is what Barbadians need to look at. The characters of those individuals we have in government that is guiding policies, that is guiding how funds, our taxpayers' money. So they're telling us that we don't deserve those machines with our own money. Our own taxpayers' money telling us that we do not deserve a better healthcare system. This is the first time in history Barbadians have to line up weeks in hospital. And that doesn't touch them.
Understood.
Stacey, what I want to do, because like sometimes the best way to do things is to say things, and I am mindful often people wrongly, and I will defend my party. I will defend my party against anybody who dares to threaten the Democratic Labour Party and its existence. People wrongfully say we do not provide solutions. Rubbish. Every time we open our mouth and every time we put solutions there. If you don't hear the solutions, say that, but don't say that the solutions aren't there because they're there. So let us understand what a Democratic Labour Party government would do to correct some of these issues, because I know you're watching at home. You're thinking, yes, I hear that. I understand the pain. My sister went through it. But what are you going to do? If it was you, one of these people here could be the Minister of Health, what are they going to do that different to the two failures that we have currently in Davidson Ishmael and Jerome Walker? One silent and one can't do. I can't talk and I can't do. So what would we do as a government? One of the things that we would prioritize is taking the expert advice, because we may need to build a new hospital. That's point one. Immediately, what we can do, we need an assessment of the algorithm that deals with patient inflow and care in the QEH. The problem that the QEH is facing is that people come into the QEH, the bottleneck happens because there are not enough beds on the wards. So you get in, everything stick up in the A&E, but that goes back to the point you were making about priorities. You build a fancy new A&E that end up leaking, spend millions of dollars, the remedial work get due, I'm not even sure the remedial work is finished, but you did not think to expand the number of actual beds and units in the hospital, because that is what needed expanding. And that is what a Democratic Labour Party would do. Not building a fancy entrance to A&E that looks sparkly, but they ain't got the beds actually in the hospital. Because that's the problem. The other problem that we recognize is, therefore, the internal medical beds are the issue, not necessarily ER. So, and the other thing that the government doesn't seem to realize, that we have come to realize, is that the hospital was built at a different period. Walter mentioned 1964. What was going on in 1964? If you look at the demographic profile of Barbados, malnutrition, basic healthcare diseases, waterborne illnesses. Just go back and look at a profile of the 60s. What were the health issues that Barbados was facing? What the hospital was built for? Fast forward to 2022, what's the health issues? NCDs. There we go. NCDs, cancer. All of it. So the profile. So if you were thinking about Barbadians, you would recognize you have to shift the nature of what the hospital is trying to do from what it was built to, but they just keep putting on a plaster on a sore before actually trying to change or fix what they found. Because it was easy to invest money in A&E, to take a box because you were going to cut a ribbon and say that you open something new, rather than address the fundamental issues. Look at the country's health profile, understand what we're facing, and then think, okay, is the hospital fit for purpose from what it was built for in 64 to what we're facing in 2024? And the answer would be no. And therefore, you bring the experts to reform and ensure that the hospital can
Realign.
do that,
Mhm.
realign the hospital while you search for whether you're building a new hospital to supplement the QEH and also expanding patient care at the community level through the clinics. It used to work. It used to work. Get the clinics functioning, give them the resources
Equipment, the
that they need
resources,
to.
the
You go
staff.
to clinics, you ain't got no what's called
Yeah,
plaster. They ain't got no
Gauze.
machines, no gauze, nothing. So therefore, you end up with bottlenecks at the QEH because you go to the clinic, you ain't getting no boy looking at you. So
Okay.
these are some of the things that the Democratic Labour Party would do. And as I said, one of the most immediate things to do is to have an urgent, independent review of the patient flow in the QH. What is going on with the number of people coming, where do they need, how many beds do we need to do, and how can we expand the number of beds at the QH? Because that is right now the
Okay.
immediate problem with the bottleneck that you're seeing in ER, because they get into ER, but they're not the place to send them. And then you have the other issue of elderly being left at the hospital, taking up beds. That tells me that we needed to also not necessarily go and build a new geriatric hospital, but expand some of the beds at the current geriatric centers. But again, people like to build shiny buildings because there's got steel in construction. When you actually do the right things and spend the money where it is, they ain't got the steel in there. Because if you're going to expand and actually put in a few beds, well, you can't carry nothing. You just got to build the beds. But when you're going to do shiny new things and doing this project, and them hours from now, nobody can't tell you how much a geriatric hospital, where the money going, how much it building, what is the timeline, what is the construction going on up there, who's the contractors, how many people employed, none of this is known to us. And again, this brings us back to issues of transparency and issues of corruption, which we can touch on.
Okay. All right. So we've looked at, examined, and even showed solutions for the QEH and the health sector. And we know that is one of the key issues for Barbadians. Now, again, this is the People's House examining the issues that matter to Barbadians. And we know another key issue that has touched Barbadians, they're writing, commenting on every news story on Instagram and Facebook, and that is education. The schools of Barbados are in a disarray. They face environmental challenges left, right, and center. Every day, there's a different school popping up that has an environmental challenge. This school is waiting on the report. The parents gotta go and clean this school because the school doesn't have the resources needed to do it. We have the issue of the incinerator at the airport affecting the school close by, St. Bartholomew. How are we dealing with these issues from the Ministry of Education? Right now, I cannot say I've heard the Minister of Education recently. We are a month into the year. We are about 3 weeks into the school term. We have had about 3 schools, I think, Felicia. The Lodge School, St. Bartholomew, and there has been another one, Luther Thorne. What are we doing? How is this helping? Our students cannot sit down in a safe environment and feel comfortable learning. Our teachers and our ancillary staff face the same issues within the schools. I won't even touch Springer Memorial and that debacle that happened to our girls. What are your issues and concerns there? As a parent advocate and as someone who's spoken so much and so willingly on this issue.
I think a few days, sometime last week, we saw a parent on social media with a diaper.
Yes.
A placard.
Yes.
If a parent has to come down to Bridgetown with a diaper on and with a placard that tells you how serious the issues of education is in Barbados. And this is not the first parent that has challenges with various circumstances in schools. We have been waiting for the Minister of Education to see that education for children, education for students is a fundamental child's right.
Yes.
First and foremost. And what is very important is that there's also an Education Act. And the Education Act has been breached several times, and yet we still have that Minister of Education in position where it kind of brings up the question to parents again in terms of what are the rights of parents, what are the rights of children, for them to be in an environment where there's constant complaints, there is constant agitation of what is happening within those schools. Not only the environmental problems that we see in the public spaces, but there are other issues. There are issues with school meals. Just last week, I received a text message saying that there was a school meal and they didn't even have enough. It's only certain children that can eat. What does that tell us? What does that tell us? Where is the planning? Where is all the funds that is being allocated for education? We need to take those, and again, it brings back, though we want to isolate those various ministries, they're all tied together. Because what it does, it looks at the human element of who we are, health, education. And it's clear that this Labour Party is not interested in anything that can uplift the people. They're not interested in education of children because we've seen that. And we provided solutions several times in the public domain. School closes for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, sometimes 6 weeks. You mean the Minister of Education have not decided that we need to have an environmental investigation of every school in Barbados? Or do we have to wait until a child or students return to school only to find out that, their environmental mold? So what do you think is going to happen when those children suffer from those various kinds of concerns, from those environmental matters? They have to go back to the same hospital that we're dealing with right now. So the reality is that these are the kinds of issues that we need to really look at. So right now we have 2 ministers of education, as if one alone wasn't bad enough. So we have 2.
Okay.
And this is the 3rd week of school, and we're seeing the same reoccurrences of environmental problems. And the environmental problems from some of those schools, based upon my research, has been since 2019, including the Lord School. So it means that those problems have been existing for a while. They again put in a little plaster over it, hoping that it will go away, because as far as they're concerned, the children should just come in a room, learn, and go home, because that's how we think about our people. And I believe it's about time that people understand that education is more than the academics. It's about the environment. It's about ensuring that children are safe. It is also about parents and how parents feel about the children in schools. I want to give you a very good example. I heard the Minister of State responsible for crime made a statement today that the Minister of Education has contacted him, making claims that there is some kind of gang violence in schools. And I thought it was a little irresponsible of the minister to do that. Why? Because you're heightening the fear and anxiety of parents, as if parents don't have enough to think about already. You have not conducted, you said that there's research, but tell us about the research. You haven't analyzed the research to know that there's gun violence. Could you imagine how parents feeling right now? The children can't eat properly in the schools. The children have all environmental problems, and now they have to think about gang-related activities at the school, and you're not certain if it's actually gang-related, but you'll come to the public domain about that. The insensitive nature of the Barbados Labour Party is very interesting, that they do not consider the rights of parents. They continue to violate the rights of parents, continue to violate the rights of children, and they do it openly, because nobody seems to think that at this stage, people are frustrated. People are frustrated, and people want this government to recognize that all of the kinds of concerns that we've had, more or less, they're making history, but not for the good reasons. Because we've never experienced such tragedies at school, such tragedies at the health hospital. They're making history for the wrong reasons. And again, I want parents, and you be home you need to take a look at the Education Act. They are violating the rights of children by having them in those environments. And of course, they're not saying anything because what are they going to see?
Nothing.
What solutions that they have? They will send somebody to try to do something, and probably in the next
Communicate
few
it.
weeks, it will be the same matter. So these are the realities that we have provided them,
Okay,
not only through our advocacy.
right.
We've placed it in the public domain since they're not wanting to have any kind of consultation with
Mhm.
us. So we place it in the domain so that people understand that we are always working on behalf of the people, whether in parliament or not.
Yes.
It is our responsibility as
Mhm.
opposition to work very tediously
Mhm.
to ensure that this government do not take advantage of people and their rights to live as citizens in their society.
I think Walter has a contribution
Yes,
to be. He looked very antsy over there.
Thank you, sister. Thanks, Felicia. You know, it is the Democratic Party that introduced the Safety and Health at Work Act. It's the Democratic Party. This party makes certain that the employer must provide a safe environment for the employer. This government has taken that and thrown it through the window. Every school in Barbados is a problem. And when they try to spin it, they say in the case where the young lady fell through the roof.
Oh,
on
yes.
the
The floor.
The floor.
The floor.
It was because of her weight. Remember,
Yes.
they said weight.
That
It
was-
a little bit too heavy, so
Really?
it fell through his head.
Mhm.
And so nobody takes responsibility for anything. But the Safety and Health Act specifically states that you must not provide an environment that is injurious to the employee.
Mhm.
But we continue to see that. We continue to say it every day, and it's going to get worse. I am predicting tonight that not only schools in Barbados, it's not only schools in Barbados, but in the public service, you're going to see more and more people coming up. Because people are frustrated. Once before a fellow might go to work because I know he knows that the environment is getting sniffling and coughing and stuff, and you're willing to work because you felt empowered. What is happening now? It has gone past that. So everything that is wrong is going to be highlighted because people are not being treated properly within the service. And this is why you are seeing the kind of reactions that are coming up.
Mhm.
And I'm sorry that we do not have the time to speak to things like contracts.
Yeah.
And how contracts are impinging on people's ability to move on or to go further within the service.
Mhm.
Oh, these are wicked things that are being happening.
It sounds.
In fact, I think I'm going to go off track a bit, but
No, I just say because it sounds like government without a conscience.
it is. It is. I'm telling you,
And-
one of the things, and I keep saying all the time that I saw in today's paper that the chief agricultural officer
Mhm.
contract is not being renewed.
Yes.
And I said, I do not blame the young lady because she did not choose herself. But clearly, before she was even in 6 months in the job, the farmers in Barbados were complaining because you placed a person in a position where she really had no knowledge of.
Mhm.
And the reason why a lot of the guys at the Ministry of Agriculture did not apply for the job, the ones who would have been qualified to do so. Because the guy said, but if you offer a contract, see what happened to her? Her contract came to an end. She has no job. So the fellas decided I'm not applying
Doing
for
that.
no contract because if at the end of the day you get rid of me, I might have a problem trying to get my pension and return. And these are the kind of wicked things that have been happening in this society. And people tend to think that it is okay. It is not okay.
Mhm.
Bajans are under immense pressure, especially mental health. I want people to understand that. We talk about the hospitals there, so, but we need to understand what's going on at the mental too. What's going on in people's households.
Households of
And what's
Barbados.
happening in offices in this country every day.
Mhm.
And so Sister Felicia is correct. There don't seem to be any kind of humanity or human face being sent to workers in Barbados to say, well, we understand your plight, let's work together to correct it. It doesn't seem so. It is like whatever I say goes. And if
Okay.
you don't agree with it, that's your business. I can always find somebody else to come and do it.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Walter. So we do have some questions coming in via social media. Our WhatsApp number is 821-6558. And we've gotten some questions. Firstly, Dr. Yearwood, tell us why, we have a question here. Tell us why Barbadians should care about the perspective on foreign debt. How does that affect their lives?
That's an interesting question. And they should care about the foreign debt because what foreign debt means really it has to be paid in US. It has to be paid in foreign currency. If you have local debt,
Yes.
but you owe people here. If you got foreign debt, you're talking about IMF, you're talking about international banks. You really can't have the kinds. And we break this down in simple terms. You really can't have a little conversation. Look, come here, John. Let me talk about this because the country going through some hard times, and you just hold off. And well, you can't pull up a man in Washington and say, "Come here to the side, come for a little drink. Let me go down by shop and let me talk about this." That is not how these international institutions work. So the more foreign debt we accumulate, the harder it is to manage our debt. When we have local debt, it is easier to have those kinds of personal conversations, not only personal conversations, but then you're looking at what the currency the debt is held in. Local debt will be in Canadian dollars, the foreign debt will be in US dollars. You got to find the people US dollars. Now, if your tourism industry or the industries that should be earning foreign money, they're not performing, where you gonna find the money from? That is the problem. And that is the problem that Barbados faces at the moment, because for all the talk about tourism projects and this project starting and that project, we have seen that the senior minister responsible for these things is good. I think it's Dr. Dugan. We have seen nothing from him. So not only did we get a housing fiasco that he handed over we got so many things to talk about. We could be here all night.
We're gonna be here all day, every time, all of these issues.
So where are the projects? Where is the Hyatt? Where's the hotel by the down there in town by the Pierhead project? Where the project that they were supposed to get in St. Peter? Where all these projects that they're supposed to be doing to stimulate not only economic growth, but to provide for employment? And then the question that a lot of young people have asked, and people have asked it recently, were you building more hotels? Well, you've been in more hotels and tell you about robotics. Tell them to go and train in this area, but you building hotels. Why you in building centers of excellence for robotics? Why you in talking to Google to get them to set up a plant here?
Or Amazon.
Amazon? Where are those conversations that you should be having using your influence? Are you building more hotels? If you go on social media with a building, like underwhelmed by do you send me to school to do biomedical engineering?
But
and then you're gonna build a
hotel. The industry here to support jobs of biomedical engineering.
Exactly. So those are the things that a government should be using its position, its influence to do. Go on. You see that you're parading climate change. Go and have real conversations to get businesses to come here, like all the prime ministers of this country have done. Barrow did it. A lot of these things are personal relationships to get the companies here. All prime ministers of Barbados used to do it. Why is this one any different? Why are we not getting the benefits of the outsized international travel, the largest budget for the prime minister's office in the history of this country? Where all of them $8 millions going, but we're not seeing the benefits. When is the last time a new company set up in Barbados that employed any substantial amount of Barbadians? And I'm talking about university qualified graduate Barbadians that we have paid. We've sent you to school. We tell you going to learn. We tell you pay your taxes. We tell you obey the law. When is the last time we have got a company that's provided them with jobs?
Okay, so we have some more comments, questions on our social media. Government does not care about real issues affecting real people. Where is the money gone that should be assisting people at the QEH? Where's the staff at the QEH? Is this QEH adequately staffed? Those are questions I think we've brought up over tonight. People leaving, and there is a mass exodus. We had that report. Yeah. You know?
Technicians are leaving.
Mhm.
Nurses are leaving.
Mhm. So we have the expertise.
Yeah. They're going.
Mhm.
And they're going because of the amount of
Pressure.
pressure being placed on them.
Mhm.
It's not that persons don't want to work and give their best. But you have administrative issues.
Okay.
Okay? You have interference.
Mhm.
Okay? And people are saying, throw their hands in the air and say, enough is enough. I don't need this anymore.
Mm.
So that's what has happened.
Right. Okay. So let me go down. Health and safety environment is major. Even in the schools, the health and safety is an issue. The cyber breaches at the QEH, which can lead me into another topic. And that has been taking up a majority of the public conversation in the last week or so, where there was a certain deadline coming for our Trident ID card, the new national ID. Some Barbadians had a major issue with the security surrounding the card, the pinning of the card. 1 minute, the deadline was June last year, then it was in August, and then it was in December, then it was today or yesterday. We've had 3 ministers that have managed this Ministry of Innovation over the last, mismanaged this this area of the Ministry of Innovation over the last 5 years. We've had, I think at that time it was Minister Ishmael said the project cost in excess of $10 million. They've said recently, the latest minister said that there was a 90% uptake magically in people who have registered for the card, but we know registration is quite different to collection of the card. So are they giving Barbadians the full picture? What is the price tag of the project? What's the security around the project? And more importantly, the law around the legality of the card. I know, Dr. Yerwood, you've spoken about it. You even talked about it today in the press. Can you give us your perspective? It's a lot.
Yeah. When I heard the minister yesterday in Parliament saying that the old ID card deadline will not expire, and basically the old ID and the new ID will continue to coexist, I didn't know if to laugh, cry, just believe that it was a joke, that somebody was playing April Fools, it come early. It baffles me that she could keep a straight face. I would have to
while on the floor of Parliament.
I would have to give her some kind of prize or Oscar prize, because the Oscars coming up, they should be nominated. I can tell you, because you had 3 ministers, right? $10 million. That was the price tag that we got last year.
Right.
So I'm sure it's gone past $10 million by now.
Right.
There's no way that project is not $10 million project. You were given advice. I remember talking about this in 2021. This is even before I became or even had any inclination that I would be the leader of the Democratic Party. So you can't even say that I was being political. Lord, even if you're trying to say what he's talking about is a liar, because way before I was just talking about this as an academic, as a lecturer, as somebody who spotted the legal issues in this quick off the bat. I was like, what is ID card going to be discriminatory? You can't do this to people. This is infringing on people's basic rights here. I got together, collaborated with other experts in the field. I said, way before politics, we brought on this. We advised the government. We went through the law line by line. That's the kind of thing you pay consultants. We did it free because this is our country. We want the best for Barbados. We went through line by line, comma by comma. I've read the bill. Dr. Bartleby wrote a 7-page advice. Said, look, here's what you need to do. Please just take this, correct the bill. It is discriminatory. First, Dale Marshall come up, thumping his chest. K. McConney. Then everybody know nothing wrong. That's all you hear from them. That's all you hear. Noise, just enough noise. No, you have Minister Cattle with a straight face admit yesterday in Parliament, oh yes, the law is discriminatory, and we realized that it would discriminate against people. I was like, well, we told you that 3 years ago, suggested to you how to fix it, and what the gumption she had is to say as if her words changed the law. So the law has not been amended. And she's like, oh, we've had conversations with banks and we've had conversations with them to accept the old ID card. The reality is no private business in Barbados or even public business in Barbados has to accept your old ID card, because according to the law of Barbados, your card is not valid. Does not care what Marsha Cattle say or what words come out of her mouth. She, by her words, cannot make the law of Barbados. The law of Barbados is made in the people's house, which is supposed to be Parliament. There are rules, there are ways to make the law. Now, if the minister was so inclined, yesterday is when the amendment should have been moved.
Yeah.
She said, okay, I give you the minister a statement. Here are the amendments to this law to correct the issues that I have identified. No. She went along like nobody's business and just said, well, we are just telling you it's okay to use your old ID card. So when you get in the shop and they tell you, ma'am, sir, actually, according to law, we need your trident, I hope that you're able to say, actually, Miss Cattle sent me and tell me it is okay.
I actually
Everybody can
have
look at the law.
someone here saying they went to a bank today. They went to a bank today to apply for an account there, open an account there. And the bank said they're only accepting the Trident ID card. The Trident ID card. That means what was said yesterday on the floor of Parliament has not changed. It has not changed what needs to be changed for Barbadians.
Because and the bank, you cannot be vexed with the bank. The bank is right. They are following the law, because the way the Trident ID card was designed 3 years ago, we told them this. Lots of us sat down. We said you're designing a single point ID card. Fine, but what you're doing, you did not make provisions for alternative forms of ID, because really the Trident is supposed to replace all of your forms of other ID. But that makes no sense, because that is also discriminatory, because what happened if you don't got the Trident? You need to be able to provide other avenues of ID. So really the bank is correct. The bank does not have to accept your old ID. Does not matter what the minister said, because the law has not changed. Therefore, according to the law, these IDs expire.
Right.
Yes, she can say what she wants, which is fine. I welcomed it. I am glad she said it.
She recognized it. That's a good starting point.
That's a good starting point. You recognize it was wrong. Took you 3 years. It took you a long time. $10 million later, plus 3 years later, three ministers
later,
and you finally recognize, oh, we have a problem. Yes, we told you that there was a problem from then on. So I am glad that she recognized it. At least she had the dignity to do that and to admit. Because she was going to say, you know what, this is discriminatory. This can't work, because people will be denied access to goods and services. And that cannot be right. So, but you didn't go the extra step, which is to lay the amendments on the floor of Parliament. And therefore, we now look forward to the amendments, because that's the next step. So we would hope that with the same kind of speed that they rush and do things and all kind of bills, that they will put this...
Because it affects the lives of Barbadians.
Affects the lives of Barbadians, because it matters to the people. That they will put some thought into this. Because you see the inefficiencies and the malfunction of this government. I saw today Dr. Hines, the independent senator, making a point about how they tried to rush through a 200-page bill on the new maritime bill, on international maritime law, in one sitting. How can you go 200 pages? And she was questioning, is this urgent? Why don't we have time to do this? Is that how governance works? You cannot run a country like that. You can't run a country, but it goes back to the same way. If the minister in her head gets up and just says something, she feels somehow, I have spoken, that it becomes the law. But then you understand why they will run through a 200-page bill. Because in their minds, well, who cares? We said it, it's fine, move on to the next issue. But it is not finished. because that person who just messaged us to say that they will refuse services because the law has not changed. So what you've done, you created more confusion. You raised the blood pressure. Half these old people who was running about the place, stand up in the hot sun, people propping up the grandfather and the mother, down there still lying, down here the guy that touching the former, getting two sweet biscuit. Listen, it was chaos. So look at this.
It was chaos. It was chaos.
People down there, you raised them blood pressure for this, and then
you
come. It doesn't matter. No apologies, nothing. No, sorry, Barbados. Sorry, people. We got it wrong. We didn't mean to do it like this. I take responsibility. I am not the new minister. I know it's not my thing, but I open the drawer, and this is what I found. As I always say, even for a party level, when I open the drawer and something, I have to take responsibility because I am the leader. You're now the minister. Take responsibility for your other two failures.
Okay.
If you want to start right with the people of Barbados, that would be my advice to Minister Kelly.
But if you're deceitful,
Your microphone. You want to use your microphone? Okay.
But I was going to say that if you're deceitful, I think people tend to want to do that. You're just hoping that people don't recognize it. And this is not the only bill that they have tried to pass or have passed in the hopes that people do not recognize what the deception is. We saw that with the child protection bill. We saw that with the pension bill. So these are the realities. This is what the Barbados Labour Party does. It starts with deception. And it wishes that people that do not catch on to it or people's eyes are not open enough. So all of what has happened in the last 3 years, the reality is that it only took some persons to understand, wait a minute, this is what Dr. Ronnie has been saying, or this is what other people have been saying. So let us stand up, let us make some, we need some answers to it. When you start with deception, it's very difficult. If you start with a lie, chances are it will take you a very long time. But eventually, if it takes 3 years to speak the truth, you will speak the truth. Because the truth at some point will come out. It will come out. And so this is what people need to recognize. And there are several bills, and I want all Barbadians to make very good notice of that. When I first joined this party, one of the first things that I always said, that we need to be the truth bearers, even if it's against us. We need to speak the truth at all times because it is dependent on the lives of people. You cannot deceive people in the hopes that you will get a pass at it. And then people's life, as you said, their grandmothers, all the people that had to take the lines and everything else. And now people are still having confusion. Because the reality is that this is what deception looks like. If you are honest at first and foremost, if you are a government with character and a conscience, you would not treat your people that way. And it is reflective on all the bills that they are attempting to rush in Parliament. There's a reason for that. Somewhere along the line, there's some kind of deception. And from the time we noticed the child protection bill, I knew I don't trust any bill that this government passes in Parliament. None. Every bill that they're going to pass, we're going to read every single dot on that bill. Because there's always something there that we do not know, and it's only later on. We're seeing the Cyber Act, the Cyber Crime Act. If persons haven't read that, it has been there for a while. There's the Human Tissue Act as well. There's several other bills that is there. You need to take a look at it because you know what they do. They pass bills on the weekend or a few days after when it's a holiday. Deception.
Yes.
And Barbadians
pay attention.
Wake up and pay attention, because once you realize people are lying to you, don't trust these people. They do not work in your best interest. And we can see that they're not working in our best interest. Because the minute that we speak up and we say, okay, well, look at the potholes you have, all of a sudden we see people fixing roads. We think they're fixing roads because if the intention was to be honest, you'd have done what is required and you wouldn't have people agitating. And I would like to make this point. I would like to thank the advocates in all the different fields. I would like the persons that are on social medias, those that are on when they show the talk show programs, and those that agitate the government. It is important because we are all opposition. Once you're not in government, you are the opposition.
Mhm.
Even those who voted for the Labour Party, you're in opposition because you're not in there. And when they make laws or they pass bills, it's affecting you
Mhm.
because look, it's affecting you now. You voted for them, and look, it's affecting you. And some of those same bills that they pass, they're breaking it too. So they're making laws to break laws. And that is the reality that we need to think about. The government at this administration is affecting everyone, including Labour Party supporters. So we need to wake up because it's all these laws that they're making and they're trying to pass them very quickly. We need to stay alert and we need to watch them very closely. And our eyes will be on them. This is what we're here for. They may not like it. They may call brag stacks every day, but we will be here every day. And we want to thank all those, the parents that went to march, the parent that went with the diaper by the Ministry of Education. Good job, sir. Because that's what it takes. It takes people like you standing up. It takes people like the Master Wicks show coming every Wednesday and making those arguments and agitating advocacy groups. But as a political party, we will do what is necessary in our space and make sure that they don't come around us with their foolishness.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. So we're coming up to time now. We've covered quite a lot in terms of the issues we looked at and examined that matter to Barbadians. So I'm going to give you some parting shots. Give you license to do some parting shots because I think it's an environment that requires that. The landscape of Barbados has changed quite a bit over the last 5 years. It's to me, it's nowhere near what it was, and I'm not saying it was perfect in any way at that time, but it's certainly not what it is today. So, Walter, do you want to share with us what, at this point in time, where we are, given what we've discussed tonight, what matters to you, what you think Barbadians need to be paying attention to, how they can contribute, what they should do?
Okay, thanks. One of the things we spoke on health, and I don't think we elaborated that much, that far, as far as health is concerned.
Right.
Because health, human beings are not idiot subjects. They're human beings. And if a person cannot have proper health care, it affects how they perform in the workplace, how they family, the family situation, stuff like that. And what we are seeing now is this carelessness, a total disrespect. And how do we address that? President Ronnie spoke about it just now. But what we need to do is to be able to communicate more with persons.
Yeah.
We need to be able to talk to people instead of talking down to people. Okay? We need to the ordinary Barbadian must have some level of trust in the persons who are governing it. So we got a governance problem as well, right? And I think every day we're seeing it. Every day we're seeing it. You can go all over Barbados and we're talking.
Yeah.
There's this disconnect.
Yeah.
There's a disconnect between the ordinary Barbadian and what they're seeing as a government.
Okay.
And what they're doing to them, right? And you've seen it. You go to the supermarket. People can't afford to buy stuff, right?
Yeah.
But yet you're seeing a certain number of persons living high off the truck. Yeah. So a lot of stuff is not being trickled down. So it is. I think the next program, whoever comes in, I really will able to deal with the issues surrounding the worker.
Okay.
Workers in Barbados
are under threat.
They are.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Walter. Felicia, do you have anything else? I know you're real passionate, and I know you're passionate about a lot of areas, but is there anything else you would like to add before we get to President Ronnie?
Okay, I just want to, again, appeal to Barbadians to recognize the work of the opposition. We are here to speak on your behalf. And I know that some of you are vocal, some of you can stand up for your rights, and especially when your rights are being violated. We should not allow the state or any representative of the state to violate your rights. And so there are times where we will have to speak on those that cannot speak for themselves. That includes children. And most persons who know me know that I'm very sensitive when it comes to the rights of children, the rights of women, and the rights of our youth. When it comes to education, we have to ensure that the right persons are responsible for them. We cannot continue to trust people that have done things to question their integrity and also to question our faith in them. And so I am asking Barbadians at this point to have a little patience. Their time is running up and they know that. Their time is running out. So right now what you're seeing, they're running and scurrying all over the place because they realize that all the gimmicks that they tried for election can no longer work. The realities are kicking in. We're seeing what is happening in the schools. Could you imagine every week a child has to be removed from one location to another, or a child has to be disrupted because of education? And as an educator myself, I understand what it means, because not only it's a psychological pressure, we understood what the children went through for COVID, but now the children have been disrupted. And so I'm sure they will not conduct any research on those schools that have been disrupted for the various elements.
Okay.
So I'm asking parents to remain strong, stand up for your children,
Be
continue
vigilant.
to be very vigilant with them, and to ensure that the Democratic Labour Party is there to stand with you.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Felicia. Dr. Yearwood, you want to give us?
I just want to thank everyone for tuning in for our first, I guess, pilot show, our first show. And I want to thank you for staying with us online, and those who will rewatch will hear the thanks as well. This is something new for not necessarily for the party, because we've done these things before, but it's something new for this year and for this environment. And I just want to say, keep watching, because this is going to be a weekly show. Suggest topics for discussion, suggest ideas. We want to hear from you. I want to thank everyone who messaged in on the WhatsApp with their questions and their queries and their comments, and and we're going to get bigger and we're going to get better. And on another note, in terms of where the party is, I just want to assure you that the party is working on your behalf. I want you to let you know, sincerely from the bottom of my heart, we are doing all we can with all the resources that we have, and we are making the efforts to rebuild and to regain your trust. It is a long road, but I feel that we're making that effort, and I feel that you are also now coming along on board with us. And I really, really want to thank you with everything I have for giving us a chance. Even just here watching and listening to us and hearing our views and hearing our solutions and our suggestions. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart on behalf of the Democratic Party for giving us a chance again. And that is really, really important for us. That means so much to me and so much to the team and to all the people. You can't see them here in the back room that have been working to make this possible on your behalf. And I want to say to Barbadians, stay vigilant, stay with the Democratic Labour Party as we rebuild. And we are here to serve you. We are here to do our best for you. And I want to say welcome to the People's House. And we look forward to seeing you next week, same time. Did we say same back channel? Did we say that?
Same channel.
Same back channel. Over to you, Stacey.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Yearwood. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. This was our first in this show. It is something that is exciting and new for us. It's something, a space we're going to use to connect with Barbadians, because at the end of the day, it is about what matters to Barbadians, is about what is touching your lives on a daily basis. And we would not be here if not for you. So we thank you for joining us on all the social media channels, YouTube, Facebook. We thank all of those who were giving comments, those who listened the entire time. We thank you, our dear friends, because at the end of the day, it is about providing a space for Barbadians to be heard, a safe space for Barbadians to be heard, a safe space for Barbadians to be understood, and a safe space to hear what Barbadians want for their own country, right? And so we appreciate you. Look out to our social media channels to see when we are going to be up next and what the topics will be. I am sure they will be exciting, and the speakers will be even more exciting. So thank you so much, and God bless you, and look out for us at the People's House on the DLP channels. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
With an air of something grand, and a vision bright and new, and a dedicated band to pull the country through. The Democratic Labour Party, and so we want the Dems again. Yes, we want the Dems again. The Democratic Labour Party. People wondered if we ought to move with so much speed. A lot more even thought we never could succeed, but we sought and wrought and fought by our every word and deed. The Democratic Labour Party, and so we want the Dems again, and we want the Dems again. The Democratic Labour Party. There were times in these first years when the road was very rough, but we had no time for tears or for being less than tough. So we just ignore the tears and pull out our heavy stuff. Be there.